Good morning. Good morning. I'm Courtney Johnson Rose. I serve as First Vice President of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, and it is such a pleasure to be here as part of this morning's program, The Journey to Homeownership. I appreciate New Light Church, Dr. Hilliard for her tremendous leadership, Bancorp South for convening this important conversation, and my Houston Black Real Estate Association family for having me as part of today's events. I want to first bring greetings on behalf of the National Association of Real Estate Brokers, where I proudly serve as First Vice President. I want to mention that NARAB was founded in 1947, and it's the oldest minority trade association in the country. We are a network of African American real estate professionals focused on advocating and serving the Black community in the area of real estate. We are the realtists. When our association was formed, African Americans could not be realtors, so we formed the realtists. And still 70 years later, our members are focused on building Black wealth in our communities and democracy in housing. So I'm very excited about this topic today, and just sharing the importance of homeownership in the Black community. It's a critical topic, and out of all the things that we could be discussing on a Saturday morning, this is by far my favorite. I want to start by sharing some stats that are startling, and this is on the wealth gap. And many of you all have probably heard some of these things over the years, but nothing tells a story like a picture. And you see the gap when you look at white homeownership on the top, or white wealth, and then Black wealth on the bottom. It is getting harder and harder for us to catch up and close this wealth gap. In 2009, Black households had an average of $5,600 in wealth versus an average of a white household of $113,000. A new report warns that if we don't make significant changes as African Americans, our wealth will go to zero by 2053. Zero by 2053. That is sobering. So one of the things that I think is key for us to talk about is what are ways that we can close this particular gap. And I want to start from the top. So number 4 is micro lending and opportunities for minority businesses. We can own our own businesses. We can provide wealth. We can provide jobs for ourselves. The number one employer of African Americans is Black businesses. We employ ourselves. So being able to work with banks like Bancorp South, et cetera, for not just mortgages, but also for opportunities for our businesses to be able to scale and grow business. Number 3, inheritance. We have to transfer our wealth better. We can't die and leave our family with no will or financial support or life insurance. Stats show that minorities are 5 times less likely to receive life insurance after the death of a parent or a loved one. We are not passing it on. We are not passing it on, and we can't afford not to. So that's very important one. The next one is income. We have to advocate for increased earnings. We have to earn more money as African Americans to be able to build more wealth. This next slide is just startling to me, but it looks at Black women's wage equality by education. So if you look at the first column, it shows a Black female with a master's degree on average makes about $56,000 a year, and this was from 2016. A white male with an associate's degree earns on average $54,000 a year. It's pretty much the same thing. So a Black female has to have a master's degree to make the same amount of money as a white male with an associate's degree. We have to be able to advocate for us to earn more money. And the last way that we can close the wealth gap, which I think is the easiest way, is through homeownership. And that's the premise of the conversation that we're having today. Homeownership is the primary saving mechanism for low and middle income families and can be a stepping stone for us. But the Black homeownership rate is only 45% versus our white counterparts at 75%. So we have a lot of work to do to increase Black homeownership. I love looking at this slide because it really shows us a pictorial view of where we are. The Fair Housing Act of 1968 gave us equality, gave us the right to own a home, gave us the right to own it anywhere, gave us the right to go to any restaurant, gave us the right to sit where we wanted to sit. But the movement that we're in now, that we've moved to, is a movement of equity. How do we get equity in this society? And I think it's by taking advantage of the opportunities that we have, like homeownership, to get there. So, true story. A few years ago, my husband surprised me with the opportunity to go to the Oprah Winfrey show when she had the show. And it was a wonderful opportunity because it was her last year of doing the show. He worked really hard to get us tickets. I was told to wear a really colorful color to stand out, because that's how you get on the front row. So I did that. We got there early, and I was on the front row of the Oprah Winfrey show. One of the wonderful things she did during her last season was she stayed after the fact, after the show, and she answered questions. So when she started the question and answer period, I raised my hand, want to ask her a question. She finally called on me. And my question was, I've read about all the real estate that you own. And my question is, why did you choose to own so much real estate? And Oprah Winfrey said in her Oprah Winfrey voice that Mark Twain said it best: buy land because God will not make any more land. Then she added that land is unique and land is special, and she likes it. Well, if Oprah likes it, I love it. And now one of my favorite quotes is to buy land because God will not make any more of it. So the Bible says in Isaiah 32, let all own land. So it's biblical for us to do it. Dr. Hilliard has said to do it. Mayor Turner has come to talk about all the ways that he's making for you to do it. Oprah said to do it, but why haven't we done it? The data on Black homeownership is heartbreaking. Again, 45% of African Americans own their home, compared to 50% of Hispanics, 58% of Asians, and 75% of white Americans. Now, we know that there's segregation in housing. We know that things like redlining and predatory lending has happened to make it harder for us. We realize that lower wages, which we just talked about for Black women, for example, lead to higher debt and lower credit scores. That makes it even harder for us to buy a house. But something being hard has never stopped African Americans before. And we have to rise above these statistics in order to close the wealth gap and experience the benefits of homeownership, which is why I'm so excited that you're here today listening to this program. Every other ethnic group has a higher percentage of homeowners than we do, which means every other ethnic group is gaining more wealth than us. So these numbers on this slide are from a couple of years ago, from 2018, but still very relevant. Shows the total population in Houston is approximately 2.3 million. Of that population, 45% Hispanic, 24% white, 22% Black, 7% Asian. In 2018, a total number of mortgages of $72,000 72,000 mortgages done. 32,000 went to white, 14,000 was Hispanic, about 8,000 to Black, and about 7,000 to Asian. The denial rate for white borrowers is 16% versus the denial rate for Blacks was 30%. You were twice as likely to be denied for a mortgage as an African American. Blacks are 22% of the population, but we only received 11% of the mortgages. So Blacks are not only underperforming in actual loan originations, but also in applications. Of the 152,000 applications that were done in 2018 in the city of Houston, Blacks, which comprise 22% of the population, only submitted 11% of the total. So Blacks are not buying homes. We are not getting approved when we try, but in a lot of cases, we are not even trying to buy homes as much as our counterparts. And then at the same time, due to lack of good estate planning and wills and things of that nature, we're losing our families' homes. So we're losing real estate and we're not buying it back. So it's so critical to be a part of today and to join this campaign to increase Black homeownership for our community and to talk about it. I commend Bancorp South. I commend New Light Church because Black homeownership matters. And we know that Black homeownership matters because according to the U.S. Black Chamber of Commerce, the number one way that Black business starts is not through a bank line of credit or an inheritance from their family like our white counterparts. The number one way is by a home equity loan. It's by pulling money out of your house is where Black entrepreneurship starts. But if you don't have a house, you don't have that option. We know that Black homeownership matters because the best way to send our kids to college, to take care of a sick parent, to pay for retirement, to pass wealth to our children, for our community, is through real estate. We know Black homeownership matters because according to the Homeownership Alliance public opinion poll, participants believe that children in family-owned homes were more likely to do well in school because they felt safer, secure, and settled. So it's so many positive effects that homeownership offers, but only 45% of our community is receiving it. That means that 6 out of 10 of us in this Zoom room don't own a home. At your church, 6 out of 10. In your sorority, 6 out of 10 are not receiving the benefits of homeownership. But almost 100% of us have to pay every month to live somewhere. Home ownership is our way to close the wealth gap. It's our way to stabilize our community. It's our way to build wealth and to leave something for our family. I pray that today is a blessing to you as you start your journey to homeownership. And remember, homeownership matters and Black homeownership matters. Thank you again for having me on behalf of the National